Guys, and welcome back to the Chaotic Kids channel, where I, Michelle, document my life here on YouTube as I'm trying to become a full-time author while also trying to traverse the world to multiple personalities. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are actually going to be talking about the books that I am currently reading / wanting to read. So let's get into it. So a little background on me as a reader. So I typically, growing up, I hated reading, and it might be because I'm partial, I have a little bit of dyslexia, but also I think it was just because I never enjoyed the books. But then again, I did enjoy some of the books, and I don't know. It was middle school, high school. I don't know what was going on. That's kind of the reason why I'm struggling with mental health as it is, I feel like, because I was never very good at understanding my life. Um, what I mean is just I cut off a lot of my memories from middle school. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh, this is why I was struggling. Um, but this is coming from an author who I think writes pretty darn good books. There might be some errors in it, but every book has grammar errors, so everyone's got it. But yeah, so that's kind of me as a reader. And now I've got my books separated into four different categories. They're books that Shelley likes to read or is wanting to read for research. A lot of my books I'm reading are for research, not necessarily for pleasure, except there's this category of pleasure books. But so the first category is Shelley's books. So this is also books that my littles and my sister like to read. Littles are just childlike alters. Well, not childlike, but they are just alters that are younger than the body. So I'm 24 and I have a lot of 5-year-olds in my system who really just want to have a reading time. They enjoy reading, which is funny considering that my childhood I hated reading. But so they are for Shelley and the littles to read. Then there is Grace's books, which Grace is my Christian fiction author, and so she's reading Christian fiction books. Then there is Maris, who is wanting to read high fantasy adventure stories, or at least high fantasy books, epic fantasies and stuff like that. And then the fourth category is the pleasure books that we just want to read just to read, because we have them, we were going to read them. But yeah, so we are going to start talking about the pleasure books that we're reading. So typically, when it comes to us reading, we prefer to read on our phone. Well, it's not prefer. We go between wanting to prefer reading on books and also in ebooks. But the ebooks are mostly from Wattpad, which, you can say whatever you want. I just enjoy reading it. I don't even care about the grammar and stuff. I just read it to get the story. And sometimes I will read it and be like, okay, this is good. And then I will later on be like, okay, I can't get past these glaring errors or anything like that. But I mostly do those books whenever it's nighttime and I'm in bed and I'm just okay, I need to calm down before bed. So I just read. I think personally I need to read more physical books, just because I have them. So I might stop reading on Wattpad. I'm tempted to delete the app, but I really want to read this one book that's slowly updating. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. But another book, this is the physical book that I'm reading. This one I am particularly reading kind of before work. And that's kind of my big time frame that I usually read at is it's either at night before bed or it is before work in the afternoon. So the book is Sarah Cannon's Beautiful Demons. I don't know why I'm going to say her name and not the other title names. I mean the author names. I don't know. But this is the Beautiful Demons. I remember reading it partially back when I was living with my brother, so maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But for some reason, I did not re-pick it back up. I stopped reading it, and I don't even know where I stopped. And I was just like, oh, I'm just done with the book. I don't know if it was because I didn't like it or something, or if I was just... It might have been the time when my mom passed away. I know that could be far off, but I think that's when it was. But I'm currently this far through it. I only have a little bit left. So yeah, I'm wanting to read this again tonight. I'm not gonna give you like book reviews because I'm just not that kind of person. But I've been enjoying it, and it kind of fits my like. So, like the pleasure books that I read are mostly like supernatural books. So like witches, werewolves, vampires, that have romance in it. That's kind of the gist of it. So that's Sarah Cannon's book. That's the one that we read for pleasure. And on Wattpad we read them for pleasure as well, but those are just werewolf romances that have maybe hybrids and stuff like that. But it's mostly that like, I think the category is called like urban fantasy, I think. But I just call it my supernatural books, the books that I enjoy reading. So now we're going to get into Shelley's books and what she's reading. The books that Shelley is reading. Shelley, like I said, is a middle grade author. She is the one that writes the Bugstopia books that are up there. And she's doing a lot of this for research, but like I also said, these are also the little books the littles books. The books that are the children in my system that want to read. We typically read these books on Fridays, just because we had a long time ago, we kind of decided that Fridays are when the littles get to come out. And, like, I completely forgot about this, like, rule or, like, quota. I don't even know what you want to call it. But it happened back whenever we were working at the school as a gym teacher, or, like, at least a gym para helping in the gym. And, Fridays were always like game day, so like the kids would get to just like play dodgeball and stuff, and then I would usually hop in every once in a while. So it was just like the thing, like that was whenever the littles really got to play. So Fridays is our little day and like days that they get to read the books that they want. Currently we finished one of the books, which is called The Secret Zoo. This one the littles really enjoyed. Shelley, really, I'm not gonna say didn't care, but like she, just was like, it's not pertaining to my book, so I don't feel like I need to read it and enjoy it. Well, she did enjoy it. It's just whenever, after a bit, like getting into the story, Shelley had to take a backseat because the littles were like, I really want to read this. Like, I want to read this kind of thing. So that was that. But we really enjoy it. Also, something to know about us as a reader is, like, we'll buy book 1 in the series, but we won't continue the series. I don't know what that has to deal with us, but, like, we'll buy book 1 and then not read the rest of the books in the series. You can come at us. That's just how we are. But so we read The Secret Zoo, really enjoyed it. Excuse me. And then we've got 2 other books that we are wanting to read. We have got The Nocturnals, which have no idea what it's really about. I remember we read it one time and thought it was good, but I can't remember what it was about now. And then we also got Nancy Drew Diaries. This one we got from the Mission. But so we are wanting, this one we feel like is a more like appropriate book for Shelley to read. Just because, like, this is the size that we want for, Bugstopia series. And it just makes sense that I guess she would be enjoying these. Like, I don't know how to describe this other than, like, I don't know what I was gonna say. That train of thought just derailed. But these are the more size for Bugstopia, so I think she'll enjoy reading these ones and really dissecting them a little bit more. These ones, like the thickness and stuff, maybe we'll, because we have other ideas for Shelley to write in. So like, I say we, but Shelley has ideas to write other middle grades, and I'm not necessarily sure if like they're like chapter books like this or if they're like novel length like this. I'm not sure. So that is Shelley's books and the Littles books. Now we'll get into Grace's books. Okay, so Grace is our Christian fiction author. She is wanting to write Christian fiction books that typically don't have a lot of love stories in it. So hers are pretty much like coming of age stories rather than a romance, which, like, we've had a discussion as a system where, like, because the book we're reading has, like, we feel like is going to have end up being a little bit of a romance, and we're like, technically all books I feel like have a little bit of romance in it, just because it's how people connect, you know, and like, if a book didn't have romance in it, it would kind of be weird, I feel like. But then again, I know that there's such, I'm not going to go into that topic, but there is such things as like asexuals, and like, you know, not everyone has like, sexual drive or stuff like that, so it makes sense. And I think for Grace's books, she doesn't really want them to have romance in them, just because, I don't know, it doesn't fit her story. I don't know. But that could change after, like, for each book. Grace's books are so far a 4-book series. Haven't really worked on it lately, but like, it's a 4-book series following different kids in high school, and their different stories. That's what I can tell you. But so the book that we're reading for Grace is Not Real, Not Perfect. This one is a divorce story, I think. Like, so the girl's parents are getting a divorce. That's all I really remember so far of the book. I have a terrible memory. But that's all I've gotten so far is, like, her parents are getting divorced. And, like, I remember reading this one day before work. I was in tears. I was in shambles after reading it. And I was like, okay, I can't read this book before work. I just can't. Because I was like, I don't even think I went into work that day because I was just a blubbering mess. And I was like, that's not okay. Um, but so this one, Grace is reading. Um, I don't know what else to say other than this is her book to read. Cause yeah, I don't know. It's just her book. While we were looking for books to read, it was kind of hard to find books that weren't like romance books. Because, like I said, we don't think this one has romance, but like, it probably will have a little romance in it. So, are we okay with that kind of thing? Like, we're just thinking about our books. But yeah, so we're so far enjoying that, and now we're gonna get into Maris, who's got a beast of a book that we are intimidated to read. Let's go. So Maris's books are high fantasy adventure stories. That is what Maris writes. We like to think of her worlds as like DC Marvel Universe level, but in a fantasy world instead of like superhero world in a way. But yeah, so that is what Maris. That is what Maris is working on. I'm sorry, I've got so many altars and I'm so scattered right now. But Maris is wanting to read Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. We are a little intimidated by this book just because of how small the font is and how big the book is, which is like it's an issue. It's not an issue, but like, it has to be Maris reading it because like all the other people are intimidated and scared to read it. And that's probably why we haven't even really started the book. Um, yeah, it's a problem. And like, Maris is like thinking if this is how, like, this is just the first like fantasy book that we picked up. But like, we're gonna pick up other ones after we get done reading this, and we're like, is this how all epic fantasies are like written? Because if that's the case, Maris might want to change up her style almost. I don't know. I don't know. We can have that whole different conversation later. But yeah, so that is Maris's book she's wanting to read. A little intimidated by it. But yeah, so those are the books that we are currently reading / wanting to read. And then there's obviously, so like our personal books that we're reading are just typically our TBR books. We've had Sarah Cannon's book for a long time. But like, we also have like a stack of like 12 other books that we are wanting to get through reading. So, yeah. we got books to read, and it's a little intimidating just because we don't like reading all that much. But you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. But I will see you guys next time with, I think, a weekly writing vlog. So yeah, see you guys later.